Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah 12 Yusuf 45 to 88. I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the devil's curse. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But the one who was free and remembered after a time said, I will inform you of his interpretations concerning forth. He said, Joseph, O man of truth, explain to us about 7 fat cows eaten by 7 that were lean, and 7 green spikes of grain and others that were dry, that I may return to the people, the king and his court. Perhaps they will know about you. Joseph said, you will plant for 7 years consecutively, and what you harvest, leaving the spikes, except a little from which you will eat. Then will come after that 7 difficult years, which will consume what you advance for them, except a little from which you will store. Then will come after that a year in which the people will be given rain, and in which they will press olives and grapes. And the king said, bring him to me. But when the messenger came to him, Joseph said, return to your master and ask him what is the case of the women who cut their hands. Indeed, my Lord is knowing of their plan. Said the king to the women, what was your condition when you sought to seduce Joseph? They said, perfect is Allah. We know about him no evil. The wife of Al-Aziz said, now the truth has become evident. It was I who sought to seduce him, and indeed he is of the truthful. That is so he, Al-Aziz, will know that I did not betray him in his absence, and that Allah does not guide the plan of the betrayers. And I do not acquit myself. Indeed, the soul is a persistent enjoiner of evil, except those upon which my Lord has mercy. Indeed, my Lord is forgiving and merciful. And the king said, bring him to me. I will appoint him exclusively for myself. And when he spoke to him, he said, indeed, you are today established in position and trusted. Joseph said, appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Indeed, I will be a knowing guardian. And thus we established Joseph in the land, to settle therein wherever we will. We touch with our mercy whom we will, and we do not allow to be lost the reward of those who do good. And the reward of the hereafter is better for those who believe and were fearing Allah. The brothers of Joseph came seeking food, and they entered upon him, and he recognized them, but he was to them unknown. And when he had furnished them with the supplies, he said, bring me a brother of yours from your father. Do you not see that I give full measure, and that I am the best of accommodators? But if you do not bring him to me, no measure will there be hereafter for you from me, nor will you approach me. And they said, we will attempt to dissuade his father from keeping him, and indeed we will do it. And Joseph said to his servants, put their merchandise into their saddlebags, so they might recognize it when they have gone back to their people, that perhaps they will again return. So when they returned to their father, they said, O our father, further measure has been denied to us, so send with us our brother, that we will be given measure, and indeed we will be his guardians. He said, did I entrust you with him except under coercion, as I trusted you with his brother before? But Allah is the best guardian, and he is the most merciful of the merciful. And when they opened their baggage, they found their merchandise returned to them. And they said, O our father, what more could we desire? This is our merchandise returned to us, and we will obtain supplies for our family and protect our brother, and obtain an increase of a camel's load. That is an easy measurement. And Jacob said, never will I send him with you until you give me a promise, oath by Allah, that you will bring him back to me, unless you should be surrounded or overcome by enemies. And when they had given their promise, he said, Allah over what we say is entrusted. And he said, O my sons, do not enter from one gate, but enter from different gates. and I cannot avail you against the decree of Allah at all. The decision is only for Allah. Upon Him I have relied, and upon Him let those who would rely indeed rely. And when they entered from where their father had ordered them, it did not avail them against Allah at all, except it was a need concern within the soul of Jacob, which he satisfied, and indeed he was a possessor of knowledge because of what we had taught him, but most of the people do not know. And when they entered upon Joseph, he took his brother to himself. He said, "Indeed, I am your brother, so do not despair over what they used to do to me." So when he had furnished them with their supplies, he put the gold measuring bowl into the bag of his brother. Then an announcer called out, "O caravan, indeed you are thieves." And they said while approaching them, "What is it you are missing?" They said, "We are missing the measure of the king, and for he who produces it, the reward of a camel's load, and I am responsible for it." They said, "By Allah, you have certainly known that we did not come to cause corruption in the land, and we have not been thieves." They, the accusers, said, "Then what would be the recompense if you should be liars?" The brothers said, "The recompense is that he in whose bag it is found, he himself will be his recompense. Thus do we recompense the wrongdoers." So he began the search with their bags before the bag of his brother. Then he extracted it from the bag of his brother. Thus did we plan for Joseph. He could not have taken his brother within the religion law of the king, except that Allah willed. We raise in degrees whom we will, but over every possessor of knowledge is one more knowing. They said, "If he steals, a brother of his has stolen before." But Joseph kept it within himself and did not reveal it to them. He said, "You are worse in position, and Allah is most knowing of what you describe." They said, "O Aziz, indeed he has a father who is an old man, so take one of us in place of him. Indeed, we see you as a doer of good." He said, "I seek the refuge of Allah to prevent that we take except him with whom we found our possession. Indeed, we would then be unjust." So when they had despaired of him, they secluded themselves in private consultation. The eldest of them said, "Do you not know that your father has taken upon you an oath by Allah, and that before you failed in your duty to Joseph? So I will never leave this land until my father permits me, or Allah decides for me, and he is the best of judges. Return to your father and say, O our father, indeed your son has stolen, and we did not testify to what we knew, except to what we knew, and we were not witnesses of the unseen. And ask the city in which we were, and the caravan in which we came, and indeed we are truthful." Jacob said, "Rather, your souls have enticed you to something, so patience is most fitting. Perhaps Allah will bring them to me all together. Indeed, it is He who is the knowing, the wise." And he turned away from them and said, "Oh, my sorrow over Joseph." And his eyes became white from grief, for he was of that a suppressor. They said, "By Allah, you will not cease remembering Joseph until you become fatally ill or become of those who perish." He said, "I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah, and I know from Allah that which you do not know. O my sons, go and find out about Joseph and his brother, and despair not of relief from Allah. Indeed, no one despairs of relief from Allah except the disbelieving people." So when they returned upon him, Joseph, they said, "O Aziz, adversity has touched us and our family, and we have come with goods poor in quality. But give us full measure and be charitable to us. Indeed, Allah rewards the charitable." Peace and blessings be upon the prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all praise is due to God.